Sky News today posted an article on their website with an accompanying video about a straw poll that they've undertaken regarding sexual harassment at both work and outside of work. It includes the following video.
Sexual harassment and assault is happening. It's happened to me and it's happened to many people I know.
Street harassment is a huge problem and something has to be done about it.
It'd be really hard to find a woman or a girl here who hadn't experienced some form of sexual harassment.
Thousands of women all over the world are coming together, speaking out against sexual harassment. Among them, former Bristol University student Hannah Price, who herself has been sexually harassed. To make a stand, she created this video, sharing women's stories of rape and assault. The majority hid their identity by using emoji faces, and the video itself went viral.
Some guys behind me were grabbing my bum and just touching me inappropriately.
An incident happened on the 16 bus. Boys felt it was okay to vulgarly talk about what they would like to do to both me and my friend.
My experience of sexual harassment at university was kind of inescapable. You couldn't really get away from it. It was quite overwhelming, whether you were in a club or walking down the street. That effect on me has really kind of shocked me to the core that I felt like I needed to do something about it and get this being talked about more.
In fact, Sky data suggests that 55% of women and 22% of men have been sexually harassed at least once in their lives. 31% of women and 13% of men have been sexually harassed at work, whilst 52% of women and 19% of men have been sexually harassed outside of the workplace. Here in Bristol, sexual harassment on the streets has become a pretty big issue. In fact, so much so that in the last few days, Avon and Somerset Police has become just the third force in the country to create a category for gender within hate crime. To try to combat the problem, an interactive map's been created so people can report where they've been either verbally or physically attacked.
We had increasing numbers of women coming to us to talk about street harassment as a particular problem in Bristol, and so we wanted to explore that and see what could be done about it, how we could challenge those behaviours and think about how people could address that and to work towards creating a zero-tolerance city.
Disappointing!
Yeah.
As more and more people come forward to talk about their experiences, the more and more initiatives there are to try and combat the problem.
What are you doing? I don't think she wants to speak to you.
This theatre company, for example, is working with charities, highlighting the issue in schools through acting.
I was very keen at actually using my research and using the women that all participated in my research, somehow translating their experience into something that could be used as an education piece.
More than half of women have told us that they've been harassed at one point in their lives. But with so many celebrities speaking out in recent weeks, it seems others are now being encouraged to share their stories. Rebecca Williams, Sky News in Bristol.
Firstly, before we delve into the article, one of the most disturbing parts of that piece is that three forces in England and Wales are now defining sexual harassment within hate crime. This is something very new and very worrying. So, telling a girl she's got a nice pair of legs or her bum looks good in those jeans is now, or can now be considered a hate crime. Something to think on. Going further into the article. Okay, the article basically repeats the information that we've just seen in that video, so I won't go over it line by line. The article claims some statistics, which is what I mainly want to focus on. Particularly these statistics down at the bottom, which says that 31% of women and 13% of men have been sexually harassed at work. We'll completely focus on women, because that's exactly what that video was about. Although they only mentioned statistics for men, that is a video about women being sexually harassed. So the article includes a link down at the bottom. I'll leave a link to the article and the data here to the statistics and how they were gathered. So the first thing we should note about these statistics are that these are weighted statistics. Now, what does weighting statistics mean? imagine we've got a target population that's evenly split by gender. So if we interview 400 people, 300 are men, 100 are women, that's disproportionate to the sample that we are trying to get, or the data is trying to get. So weighting the result helps, or attempts to help, correct this balance. So the target proportions for both men and women are 50%. So the proportion of men would therefore need to be what we call down-weighted from 75% to 50%, and for women up-weighted from 25% to 50% to try and even things out. What also needs to be done is to provide statistics as to how that up-weighting or down-weighting has actually been achieved, which they haven't done with the statistics that they provide. So anyway, we'll delve into it a bit further. A grand total of 1,009 people from their Sky customer base have been polled on this question. 1,009 out of 65.5 million people that live in the UK. So that is less than 0.0015% of Britain has been asked about this. So we already know that this is going to be quite an accurate representation, and leaving out certain enormously important criteria such as to how this has been up-weighted or down-weighted is something else to bear in mind. So looking at the statistics, again I'll repeat them, 31% of women claim that they have been sexually harassed at work, either verbally or physically. When we drill down into these statistics and we add together both the verbal sexual harassment and the physical sexual harassment, we come to a total of 44% of women have answered yes to either that they have been exposed or victim of, victim being a word that they really do enjoy using, to sexual harassment either every day, very often, fairly rarely, or very rarely, which is enormously different. But all of those can be seen as being answered in the positive, meaning yes, I have been victim, and that can range from someone who's worked at the same company for 25 years and seen it once in her entire time that's there, or someone that's moved about once every year to different places, seen it rarely, every day. The biggest thing that makes me wonder is the 1% of people that supposedly are seeing physical sexual harassment or been victim of physical sexual harassment every day. Why these people are not reporting these crimes? Why these people are still working at the same place if they are victimised and physically assaulted every single day? Anyway, if you look at these statistics, there's no way that you can get them to add up to the 31% stated by Sky. The only way you'd be able to get these to match their figures would be that if it was heavily upweighted in favour of females. That's the only way you can manipulate these statistics. Instead, what you actually come out with is a figure that is 22%. Nothing like the 31% that they are claiming. Therefore, this study, this article, everything about it is bullshit, provocative, manipulating, and trying to get you to think along their thought lines and doing nothing other than creating news, making news rather than simply reporting the facts. This is typical of big news organisations that seem to have to fill some kind of quota on articles about women, harassments, some kind of oppression. It's impossible for Sky News to be objective when it comes to something that they have clearly got tunnel vision on.